Hi, I'm Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kristen, and this is Project Overland USA.
And today, this is going to be our first recap video where we discuss amongst ourselves how our first overlanding trip went. So it was a big adventure. It was our first adventure, and we're going to talk about that today. And since this is our first recap video, a lot of you don't know how this is going to work. So we're going to be talking to each other about what happened and some of the highlights of the trip. And then during the video itself, we're going to overlay it with either video or pictures of what we're actually talking about. Hopefully it'll be a really interesting video for you. You can even see some behind the scenes video or pictures that didn't even make it into the actual video itself. So we're going to be recapping what we like to call Overlanding North Carolina, or as it was officially known as the Winter Safari. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. So that was a pretty amazing trip we went on to. Remember, I had just bought the truck like 2 or 3 months prior to this trip. So this was our first overlanding trip with that truck. And we didn't have any gear. We didn't have any camping stuff. All we had was a truck. Did I even have Max Tracks at the time?
I can't remember. And you also have to remember we had just moved halfway across the country and started new jobs. So not only was it a new experience, or not necessarily a new experience, but it was a new experience with this truck to go overlanding. We also were dealing with the turmoil of moving as well.
Again, to kind of lay the groundwork here, we had just bought the truck. We don't have any gear. And, you know, all these overlanding channels, the big guys who have their $100,000 rigs, the first thing they say to all the new people is, you don't need anything to go overlanding. Well, we didn't have a thing. I mean, I don't even know. I thought we had Max Tracks, but maybe we didn't even have those. So all we had was a truck, no truck cap, no camp, no tents, no anything. So no bumper, no winch, no extra gas can, no mud tires, no anything. So this video that we made almost didn't happen. Remember the hard drive failed?
Oh, yes.
So we lost everything from the trip. And then we lost even more stuff from overlanding. I lost like over a year's worth of overlanding videos. So this whole video almost didn't even happen to begin with. So that was a pretty traumatic time.
And remember the chaos surrounding the trip as well, because we tried to squeeze a really long trip into a long weekend. We were driving all the way from Ohio to North Carolina, meeting up with this group, and then trying to do the whole winter safari, and then driving all the way back home and trying to go back to work without taking very much time off from work. So it was pretty squeezed in there. I mean, we were booking it to make it there and back. And then on top of that, when we got there, we thought since we're just, let's just wade into the shallow waters first, and let's not go camping this first trip. And so we thought we had rented a nice cabin, and we were going to be nice and, relatively cushy for the weekend and not have to worry about hardships with camping or anything. And we get there, and it is like very primitive. And we weren't able to check in while people were there. So we're just showing up. It was closed down for the evening. So we're just arriving. We walk in, and there's a propane heater. There's
like a Mr. Buddy heater on the floor. The building only has one entrance. There's one door to get into this, and then surrounding the whole thing is wood up into the shape of a teepee. And instantly I'm just like, okay, this is like a huge red flag. Okay, we're in a building that only has one entrance and exit. There's no escape exits in this place. And then there's no windows, just one door. And then there's a Mr. Buddy propane heater on the floor that is keeping it somewhat warm. And I'm just like, this is like huge, like danger zone. I'm like, first of all, okay, this is a propane heater inside an enclosed structure with no ventilation. I'm just like, first of all, we could die of suffocation or fumes or something. And then to top it off, if this thing catches on fire during the middle of the night, somehow catches the place on fire, how are we going to get out? Because it's kind of in between us and the door. So I'm just like.
So then we decide to put all our clothes on and hop in bed. And this is like a very old-fashioned kind of rickety small bed, if I remember right. So we put all our clothes on and we hop into bed. We turn off the heater, and we are just freezing. And we don't know we don't know how cold it's going to get during the night, and we're already cold.
Well, remember, I went and cracked the door open because I was afraid of carbon monoxide poisoning. So I cracked the door open.
And so we're trying to sleep. You know, it's been a long trip. I think we drove all the way there from Ohio, 7 hours at least. And so we're trying to sleep, and we're just like, no, this is not going to happen. And so I had looked up some hotels, but they're like 30 to 45 minutes away. I mean, we are out in the middle of nowhere, basically rode up the mountain.
And this is like 1:30 in the morning now. After we've unpacked everything, brought it inside, and we're laying there in bed, and we're both like, okay, this isn't right. We shouldn't be doing this. So it's like 1:30 in the morning.
So we drive back down the mountain, try to find a hotel. It's probably like 30 to 45 minutes down the mountain. And so we find a hotel. We finally get to sleep, and we get like a little bit of sleep. But then we have to be back up there at like, I don't know, 8 a.m. or something. So we hardly get any sleep, but we get back up there. And so, I mean, I'm worried about, we've just paid for like 2 nights in this teepee, and I don't think it was cheap. And so I go and talk to the owner, and it was a very interesting experience. And he was very assured of himself that that propane heater had been used many times. It was perfectly safe. And I was like, look, we just don't feel comfortable. Can we have our money back? And so he eventually relented, and he gave us our money back. So,
and we've already faced our first hurdle at the teepee incident.
So I was really nervous because we had just spent all that money on the truck, and to me it seemed like a really big investment. And so you were planning to go on the trail, and I was like, I was really nervous. And then I believe at the last minute.
Why were you nervous though? You didn't know anything about the trail.
Just the fact that we were going off road.
So I remember before we even said yes to going on this trip, I had called the guy running it and told him exactly what type of vehicle we had. Now he assured me that a stock 4x4 could make it on this trail, or he also said that they might run two different trail rides, one for beginners and one for the more advanced. So that's the one thing ever since we got this truck, my number one question to any event we go to is, can a stock 4x4 make it? Because I'm not interested in tearing this thing up or doing underbody damage or like crushing the transmission because we went over a rock that we couldn't handle. So I've been like super paranoid about doing any damage to this truck. So the guy who was running it assured me that a stock vehicle could make it. So but as the hours approached, it became evident that there was not going to be a beginner's separate trail ride from the more advanced. Like, we were just going to go straight to the hardcore stuff. And so I think you and I didn't we debate for an hour or two about whether we were going to go on it or what we were going to do?
I mean, I, for whatever reason, I was just nervous. I mean, maybe just because I didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, and it was an expensive truck, and I just was nervous. So I think maybe you were debating in your own mind, because I was already just not wanting to go, or just tag along with somebody else, enjoy the ride with somebody who their vehicle was ready to do the trail.
Yeah, so I think towards, like, I don't know, maybe a half an hour before, we spoke with the guy who was running the event, remember? And I told him that I didn't feel okay going on the trail with our vehicle. And he was okay with that. And then I just asked if we could get a ride with somebody else. So I think that he made like an announcement before the group and asked them if we could ride with them, with somebody else. So so there was a couple of guys that stepped up and said that we could ride with them.
Yeah, and I believe we found a really cool Land Rover that we went with, and there was
Yeah, that was Max's Land Rover. Super plush inside, remember?
I don't remember, but I remember there was like 4 people in the car, so there must have been other people that didn't want to take their car either, because I believe there was like us 2 plus 2 guys in the car. And they were real nice. I think they were from Houston or
Georgia.
Georgia, okay. So we got to learn more about Georgia and what kind of trails are out there. And we went in a Land Rover, so I think it was very capable for the trail.
Yeah, speaking of Land Rovers, like, I mean, I know that Land Rovers have been the quintessential icon of off-roading and overlanding for nearly a quarter century. I was just absolutely amazed by how well Land Rovers did on this trail. Like, if there was any vehicle that was capable, it was just a stock Land. I mean,
yes,
they didn't have like lifts, they didn't have like 35-inch tires. I mean, but they were just like going over these gatekeeper rocks like they were nothing. And I'm just like, I was just in awe. I was like, wow. I mean, Land Rover is like just absolutely amazing. And speaking of going over the gatekeeper rock, that's when I was like, I was so thankful that we did not drive our truck over that, because it would have been destroyed. It would have been hung up for one, and I could see frame damage, transfer case damage, and probably transmission case damage just by trying to get over that one rock.
I mean, it was so scary that I didn't even want to go up the rock in the car. I was nervous even being in the car going up that. So
You mean the Land Rover?
Yeah, even the Land Rover, I was like, it looked quite vertical and bumpy. And so I got out of the car and I just walked up the rock, because I really didn't want to experience that in a vehicle. It was that unnerving.
Yeah, it was a pretty gnarly rock. Now, we unfortunately, remember, we either didn't get every vehicle trying to get over that, or some of the footage was completely unusable because our camera at the time didn't seem to want to focus. So remember, we're having major focus issues with our cameras. So much so that there's a lot cooler footage, at least I thought there was, that we just couldn't use. I had to delete it because it was just so blurry and so shaky that it was unusable. But one of the vehicles that did get hung up on that was like an F-250. We didn't get it on video, but it was a long bed with a very modest lift on it, and it totally got hung up on those rocks, and they had to winch them off of it. So,
Oh, wow.
so that would have been our truck times 2, because we didn't have a lift. So, and then there was a few other vehicles that had some difficulty getting over that. But as far as the Land Rovers, like, piece of cake. Like, it's not even, it's just a walk in the park for a Land Rover. Now, of course, there's Toyotas and Jeeps, and yes, they got over it. But my main awe was watching those Land Rovers get over it in stock form.
Yeah, I believe that the Land Rover we were driving in was completely stock. Like he said, it's basically his highway vehicle. I mean, I think he had just purchased it and he hadn't done anything to it.
Yeah.
So
Not even aggressive tires.
Yeah, I think it was just whatever tires it had on. So it was pretty amazing. But you bring up a good point about the photography, because we had done a lot of photography and videography, but we were used to still, where we're standing in one place and filming. We were not used to hiking over uneven terrain with a camera in our hands. So I think that was a learning curve to realize what a difference it is, trying to focus, trying to keep it even, and just in general, the motion videography. So I think since then we've improved a lot based on that first trip.
Yeah, I think we learned a lot. We learned a lot about the limitations of our cameras, and we've had to work around that since, but we've gotten new equipment since that time. So the focusing and all that issues hopefully has been taken care of for the most part with our newer cameras. But yeah, that was a super disappointment, us not getting like some of the best shots there because of our camera gear.
And I think also we hadn't really set up our vlogging equipment as well, so we weren't even really set up to film on our smartphone as well. So just in general, we didn't know, but we were ill prepared to capture all the moments of the trip.
Yeah.
So we went quite a ways on the trail, and there was more frightening moments, like very narrow roads with huge drop-offs. But I would say the Gatekeeper Rock was probably the highlight of the trail.
Yeah, there was definitely some dips and minor, I don't know how you call it, but anyways, you go over a little hill and a dip, and even like with some of the modified and jacked up Toyotas, they were still hitting their sliders on that. So
oh, wow.
That would have totally jacked up the underside of this as well. So it wasn't just the Gatekeeper Rock, there was other stuff there too. One thing too, remember, like with us being outside filming, it was also raining at the time too, and we had no like rain gear for our cameras. Like, so I think you were using a plastic bag to cover up your camera, and I was just going for it without one. But and the other thing is, we did have our ride in the nice luxury of the Land Rover, but when we were out filming, all these vehicles were driving by us, and so we're sitting there going up a mountain, and our ride is like a quarter of a mile up, and there's just no way that we had the energy to walk up a mountain, like, and then try to find our vehicles. So basically we ended up hitchhiking with some of the people on the back of the trail, and then we just jumped in with them, and then we all met up. There was like this central location that we met up, and we all had kind of like a break time. We had lunch or whatever, but yeah, that was pretty intense going up the mountain. I was out of breath a lot there.
Well, I think, we were from the South. We had been living in South Florida, so we weren't used to mountains, like climbing mountains. Like, I walk every day, but I don't, there's something different about hiking up a mountain, and it was pretty steep at that area. So I think we were quite out of breath. Plus just the excitement of the Gatekeeper Rock and trying to film everything. It was rather exhilarating. But, I want to go back to the Gatekeeper Rock. One thing that was also kind of unnerving is there was nowhere to turn around for a while. So if we would have been in the caravan in our truck and gotten to that rock, we wouldn't have been able to turn around. And that was pretty frightening. Because, I mean, really, it was like a one-lane place until you got to that opening where we braked at.
Yeah. Again, I think we were both so happy we decided to bail out of driving our own vehicle and just ride with somebody else, because it would have been a very unhappy, unpleasant experience for us both. So.
And it was still a lot of fun, like getting to meet new people and ride with different people. And I mean, I thought that was more fun than messing up our truck, definitely. But, you know, I thought it was interesting to get to know other people better and still experience the trail as a passenger.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun with the trip, going on the trail and then having to hop in the truck with different people.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody there was super cool and super nice. We met a lot of cool people there. Some people I still keep in contact with. So yeah, it was, as far as the social aspect, meeting new people and making new friendships, that was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed that.
And I guess looking back, I wish I would have been better prepared for the social aspect and made more connections myself. But I think it was, you know, again, moving cross country and then trying to book our way all the way there on a short weekend. And then, you know, all these things, and then the teepee incident and not being ready for the trip. I think I also wasn't ready for the socialization as well. I just, you know, it was just a lot all at once. So I guess in the, you know, future trips that we've taken, I feel like I've been able to socialize a lot more and been more ready for the socialization aspect of it. So I am trying to think if there's anything else. I feel like we had to book it back home, so.
I just remember, I mean, I know we've talked about a lot of negative things about what happened to us, but, you know, overall, I think it was a positive experience. I think that we had a lot of fun, even though we had difficulties. And like I said, meeting new people, that was a lot of fun. Being able to video our first overlanding event, our first official overlanding event, that was pretty cool. So there was a lot of pluses in this trip, and you know, a lot of things came out of it which were really cool.
Well, and I think we shouldn't despise small beginnings. I mean, we all have to start somewhere, and we might not know quite what we're doing, but if you don't start, then you never start. I mean, you have to start somewhere. So I think it's very important that you just start. You start on your journey. And it might not be how you are at years down the road, but at least you start. And I think we should celebrate our start.
Yes, I think it was a great start to our overlanding adventures. What I really like about doing stuff like that is, you know, you can read online and look in books and read all this information, but you really, for me at least personally, like, none of it makes a lot of sense until you see it in person and put into action, like as far as what equipment you need, like what your vehicle capabilities are necessary to do stuff like that. So for me, that's the beneficial part of going to events like that. You gain so much more on-hand knowledge about what you're doing, about what the truck's capable of, and what type of equipment you need, because I would say that adventure helped me see that when somebody says you don't need anything to go overlanding, sure, if you're going to just go down a dirt gravel road, then all you need is a Ford Focus. You don't need a 4x4, you don't need a Jeep, you don't need camping gear. But if you're going to be doing serious off-roading, then you need a capable vehicle, you need the camping gear, you need the luxury accoutrements such as a refrigerator, food, water, gas, all that stuff you need to accomplish a goal of going off-roading for overlanding. So,
Well, and I guess the other thing is I hadn't really done any off-roading. You had done all the off-roading driving that we had done. And so later we went to the Overland Expo East and I got some actual training on driving off-road. But at that time, I was not a capable off-road driver. So you would have been totally the only driver on that trip. And then we play back and forth, like who's going to drive and who's going to film. Because honestly, I feel like you're best at both. So it's like, who do we put in which role? And I think more recently we've been falling into me driving and you filming. So, but at that point we weren't ready for that.
yeah. So yeah, I know since that event, since overlanding in North Carolina, you've gained a lot more confidence in your off-roading skills. And again, we're still beginners here. We're not pros. I wouldn't say we're even intermediate. We're still beginners in all this. So we're learning a lot and going through a lot. And this was the first adventure to help us kind of plant our foot down on opening the door into the overlanding community and adventures out there. So you want to close us out?
I guess they had like a variety of classes that we could attend, and everybody was really nice. There was a lot of people there, a lot of nice rigs, a lot of nice people. It was a pretty nice event as far as like the number of people and the planning. And
okay, so folks, that was our very first recap video on our overlanding in North Carolina, also known as our winter safari. We learned a lot. We went through a lot of struggles on that trip. We had some limitations to the abilities of what ourselves could do and our vehicle. But overall, I think we had a awesome time there. I know I did, and something I look back at with fond memories, especially our interactions with other people. So we hope that this video has been informational for you. We hope you've gotten some value out of it. In the comments below, let us know if you have any further questions about this adventure we took in North Carolina. Let us know if there's anything that we missed that you would like to hear about. And hopefully on our next recap video of our next adventure, we'll talk about those things in an upcoming video. So thanks again for listening and tuning in with us, and be sure and subscribe and hit that bell notification so that you'll never miss one of our exciting upcoming videos.